Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're dialing in from. Thank you for joining. Thank you for listening. Please remember to like, subscribe, and share if you find this content helpful. All right, now let's get into some discussion. Welcome, Sister Patrina, and anybody else I might have missed. Good to see you.
Yeah, see me, everyone.
CME. Good to see you, Asaf. How you doing? All right. Okay. So just put a C in the chat or raise your hand. Let me know what thoughts are going through your head. Okay, let's see here. Where's my chat? There we go. Okay, I see Ray and Vanessa. I don't know which one went up first. Ray, go ahead.
Ladies first, I'll wait.
Okay.
No, this is so good. I have enjoyed this book. I really didn't get a chance to read all through, but I'm so glad for your summary. And one of the things that did stick out to me was the prayer that they prayed. You know, in Christendom, and we talked about this, I believe, the week before, how they wanted us to be weak, to always turn the other cheek. And it's something I've been taught since I was a little kid, is that if somebody white says something to you, turn the other cheek, you know. I went back to watching a show. The show is called Underground, the Underground. And it was a movie on Netflix. And one of the disturbing parts about this show was this little boy who was bought by a white man. Little black boy was bought by a white man, and how this white man groomed him to be against his own people. And so he would turn his own people in, and he would mistreat his own people. And this was a little boy of probably about 6, 7, or 8, and how this was groomed into them. And I'm thinking about how fear is groomed into us, where we're taught not to fight back. We're taught not to, don't say anything back to them. You know, vengeance is mine, saith the Lord, and it is. I'm not talking about just coming into our flesh and doing this in our flesh. But when spirit tells you to open your mouth and say something, we got to trust that he's going to give us, he said, open wide your mouth and I will fill it. And so he will give us exactly what to say to our enemies that they won't be able to gainsay, and make our foreheads like flint. When he tells Jeremiah, don't be moved by their faces. Don't even look at them. Don't even look at them. But when I tell you to do something, I tell you to say something, I need you to be bold enough to say what I've told you to say, uncut, unapologetically, be who I called you to be. And that is what the church has kind of wormed out of us, is this ability to get up and say the hard thing. It's just tickle our ears and make us feel good. And if it's not making us feel good, then we don't really want to hear it. So that these brothers were bold enough, and their mother, to die and know that they, listen, I ain't worried about this life because I know I got a second one. But for you, there ain't no second life. So have your way. Go ahead. Do whatever you want to do. I got a second life. What about you? So this is very encouraging to me, just to have a forehead and a face of flint in the view of what they do and how they treat us. Ingeta.
Ingeta, Ray, go ahead. Thank you, Vanessa. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm a piggyback on that. There's a lot of things. The story of the 7 brothers and their mother. It speaks of how Hollywood used that to show how the Christians gave themselves up. Whether that really happened that way, or this story is so romanticized. You think of, wow, they wrote every line down from all the brothers. It sounds like it was tampered because they didn't know our language. You know, the Greeks, they only knew whatever they were speaking. So it just seems like the story in itself, it may have happened, but the way they romanticized it, like, wow, these people really stood out and they spoke to each other and I'm not gonna die for you. It's anyway, I'm going back to the dark, the thick, dark water when the sun hit it and it burst into flames. It sounds like petrol, like oil. I mean, it's thick, it's dark, and they call it water. I mean, you know, some petroleum runs like water and it ignites very quickly. So when we talk about naphtha earlier this week, and then I read that, I'm like, that sounds like petrol. So whatever this fire we produce, there's a certain type of oil. And we know there's different grades of oil depending on where you mine it in the world. It's a different type of oil that when the Most High gave us that, listen, when the sun touches this, it's going to burst into flames. It's going to do what I need you to do. And these people, like you said, they're building national parks everywhere where they say uneventful things they can't explain from the king of Persia. I mean, if he was doing that a century ago, we know what these manipulative people are doing today. You know, they're putting monuments, churches, like when you went to South Africa, the tomb. It's what a party center now. But between the years, what had it been? How many times did it change hands? And in a lot of areas on the continent, oh, it's a church there, it's a conservatory there. They're looking for us. And when you said the ark could be in Mount Nebo, I'm doing a word search on Nebo. I mean, wow, this is fascinating. So the ark probably it went back up in the mountain. You figure with some Levites carrying it and the prophet, and the door closed behind them. This is great. This is great. And Geta.
In Geta.
Awesome. Awesome. Asif, go ahead.
Geta. So I lower my hand here. All right. Uh, like everybody else, this was much more intriguing than I expected. I just got through all books today. It like the roller coaster is crazy and the amount of torture. Um, it's maddening, like the detail. I'm not a avid reader, so I don't know about novels in there, but are they usually this graphic? Like they like this was ooh. I'm actually glad I wasn't able to get on and express my feelings before on this because I mean it had my blood boiling like in just oh man like it's just crazy to see it. So um real quick I don't want to take up too much, but in 4 and 5 um just one thing that was interesting in 4 12 through 14, it says that the Jews was wearing tall hats and it was a Greek fashion. I thought that was kind of a dope little, hey, let's throw in a little something here. So I guess that's where they get their tall hat thing from. Because as I'm reading this entire book, I'm hearing a lot of interjection of where if I was to meet what's the proper way to say it? If I was to meet the curly guys with the hats and we had a conversation, you know, to argue heritage and things like that, this could be one of those books that you can pull up and say, see, this is one of our ancient books and look at our da da da. And as you read it, kind of look for those little key things that kind of get shoved in there every once in a while. And this was one of them. This is one of those things I was like, that's a trip because where does the idea of tall hats come from? Like anywhere, like it's just but clearly it was some type of a Greek fashion, which is interesting, right on. So that's interesting. So anybody want to do further research on that, because that's about as far as I went. But but what was also interesting with that, when you get right past that, is because they do mention the Greek fashion, and then you get a couple of lines down, and then it talks about them doing sacrifices to Hercules. That kind of bugged me out a little bit because, like, growing up, in school and everything, we've always heard about Greek mythology, so on and so forth, and everything. And you always hear about the Greek gods. But it was just one of them words that just kind of flew over your head. These dudes was literally gods to them. Like they're really they're really sacrificing. It was just like it was something that always just kind of went over my head. The Greek gods, and and I love the Disney cartoon. It was hilarious. But it's like these people were literally doing sacrifices to the gods, and of course, because this is one of their first civilizations, and they're coming off the backs of trying to follow us for so many years, right? So who knows how maddening these sacrifices are? I'm quite sure this is where you're seeing the sacrifices to Baal, and a lot of the passing the kids through the fire and so on and so forth. I am working on a little chart but yeah, I'm thinking that this is where you're going to see a whole lot of that child sacrifice and other madness going on to Hercules, you know. And then further down in 511, there was a massacre. The king had the massacre. He massacred Judah, as it is in here, because he had a thought. He just, like, it's a trip to think of paranoia and what paranoia will do to you. You know what I mean? Especially when you really ain't as hard as you think you are. Like it's really a trip because as a Bantu, as a Sole, we like, how do you express this shortly? Like it's like it's like the boxing ring. It's kind of like, yeah, I can knock you out right now, but I'm gonna just let you chuckle around, and fight around with me just to make you feel better. So, like, I can do it, but I'm gonna be cool about it. And these kings in these situations, they know who they're dealing with. They know who they're dealing with, but over time, we've forgotten who we were that they're dealing with. So of course these things get to happen. So because of his paranoia, he thinks there's going to be a revolt. From what I read, it didn't look like there was any evidence of it except his paranoia for the most part. Someone correct me if that's wrong, but there was a massacre because of it. And then two more things real quick because I want to get to seven. Seven was juicy. But in 527, it was really interesting to avoid eating polluted food, to only eat herbs. That was a trip to me because, again, that is one of the things. I'm again trying to make comparisons in Christianity. Some of these things right out the way is just right out the door. Eat what you want, enjoy yourself, like, and it's whatever. And of course, even the more we even learn on a scientific level, I guess you could call it, having a herb diet, eating, what we call more green foods and just natural foods is just what it does for us. We feel better. And of course, that's because of sticking to the law, of course, right? But then the last point here, this was a trip because of that 6-1. So the king, he's mad. All right, we're not following his laws. He's getting pissy and everything. And now he has this new Greek priest in charge. So he sends this Greek priest to come down to Isole and start fussing at everybody. And I can kind of picture this even now, his little robe and trying to be official. Like, he's coming down to fuss at everybody about, y'all need to stop listening to this Sunini Nanini and get away from them laws. And it's just interesting that the king went out of his way, like he knew that that was the thing he needed to address. I got to get them to stop with this law thing. I got to come first. You know what I mean? They need this pork, just like a little slice. You know what I mean? Give them a ham sandwich, man. Like it's give them a little something. And it's kind of interesting. I did make more notes, which I'll throw out later, but how from that situation in 6-1, it goes into 6:30. And I think we start developing the timeline of the beginning of Christianity from that timeline, which I'll get into later, but get to
Oh, that was a good summary, man. Yeah, that was a good summary. I could picture those guys in the robes. I had a lot of the Catholic Church in my view, you know. I mean, it's just the best example that I had, you know. But I see how this laws thing crept up in Christianity, you know, and after a century almost of it being repeated, you know, now it's just become, you know, you talk to somebody about it and they dismiss you quickly. They say, we're not under the law, you know. But there you ask them, so do you go about killing and stealing? They're like, no, no, you can't do that. Is that the law? Of course it is. You know. All right, Sister Sandra, go ahead.
Okay, hello. Okay, so can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Okay, so I agree with the fact that you spoke, made comment about prayer, how we should be as boldly as those gentlemen were, to be unapologetic. When we have been oppressed, let the media come. And when they come, let not the first words we say is, I forgive you. Because I see that sometimes that is like a mockery, and the world sees how we have been miseducated in religion, the religion of Christianity. But when they come, let them hear us say, for those who have oppressed us, let the Most High torment those, and he shall torment those. Mm-hmm.
Very well said. Very well said. You know, I couldn't say it better. Very well said. All right, Mama Margaret, go ahead.
Okay, see me everyone. I just wanted to share this because this really kind of stuck out to me. Speaking about in chapter 1, we're celebrating the purification of the temples. As you said, that we now came from Angola. So as a purification, and he's saying here, it was we consider it proper to notify you so that you too may celebrate it as you do for the Feast of Shelters. And the Feast of Shelters is where we know we came from there, and all the tents that was around the temple, and you know, everybody was there as we celebrated that with in Angola there. But what I was watching at also, as Brother Ray spoke about the oil, you know, there's a lot of oil in Africa, right? And we have a lot of oil in the Caribbean also. And I think about, when I watch the dry wells and where they found, remember they put a fire in there. And then when they went back for the fire, I remember they found this thick liquid. And I just like, continue reading secretly, these things, and you have to, and what came strongly on me now, because when you're looking for oil, they have to dig as wells. They say, okay, we found this well and we found that well, and they bring up the oil, and that, that we call that black gold, because, oil have a lot of money, and but look how funny it is, it coming through my mind, where Tata Zami structurally placed these places, the oil here. Why he didn't place it in all these places that are coming to us now, trying to destroy us? Look at what happening in Venezuela, Trinidad. And this keep coming to me. I say, look at that. If he wanted them to inherit some of that, if he would have left it there, because they talk about Persia taking some of the fire and taking over there. Why didn't he dry up all those places and let us have these things where his people gather, where we gather at the time our ancestors? We born in Trinidad, we born in the Caribbean, so many people, but where they finding this oil? Where's this oil? Because of the fire, where he used to take some of it, even when the time when he said, the only people took the gold, he said, okay, go by your neighbors and take some jewelry and carry. And they made, what they did with it. But this thing here, where he said, take some of the fire and carry it in a secret place. And it was placed in a dry well. So the well, that dry well, speaking about the wells with the oil. That is well, that you carry something valuable. It's a fire, yes, but what it turned out to be, you are the creator of all things, the earth and everything in it. So look at where he placed well for us, even though he was so angry and mad with us because our ancestors, what they did, he still placed something there for us to inherit, to live on. And they're still coming to suck everything out of it still. So even, you see this Maccabees chapter, book 2, it's hard. You had to have a stomach to take so many things in this. Because just reading it and making your stomach feel so queasy inside. No, you had to really digest some of these things. So this is what I wanted. Yeah, it's a lot. Even it's the sons. I just don't like the 7 sons and the mom that died. It's a lot. You had to really take your time and dig into this and, have a stomach to to read and consume these things. Okay, and that's what I wanted to share.
Ingeta, thank you, Mama Margaret. My goodness, when I read about the sons, I thought to myself, what if in Christianity we knew about this episode? Because in Christianity, the story about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego? It's the one that comes close to this. Or maybe when Daniel is thrown into the den. And man, if we've beaten that horse so much, what about this one? What if we knew about this? Is somebody going to convince me that they were doing this to some people from that place? This is a clear indication of what was happening even here in the US just in the 40s, 50s, 60s. And there's a trend here, a trend by the perpetrator and a trend on the victims. The victims back then are still the victims now. The perpetrator back then is still the perpetrator today. Same thing with the resources. The perpetrator back then came for our resources on the land and now has been going around the world trying to find where there are any more resources. And what do? They push away the people. Even those that they brought there as slaves, they pushed them away to where they thought there was nothing, but the Most High had a fire for them there. And when the perpetrator realized there's a fire there, they came and they cordoned off the area and they started exploiting it. I mean, it's like there's nothing new under the sun. Okay, Ray, let's go ahead. Oh, sorry, Mama Emma. Mama Emma had raised her hand. Mama Emma, go ahead.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I forgot to put the comment in. 3 or 4 people back. But anyway. Oh, yes. Oh my goodness. Of course, this takes me to Genesis. And oh my goodness. Let me see if I can condense all my thoughts based on what everybody was saying. Totally in agreement. And the perspective is just right on. Because like you said, they not only knew who we were, we knew who we were. But again, the illusion and the illusion is that we didn't. And again, the more we hear that and the more that we were trying to maintain the righteousness of being the example of the law, they took advantage of that. And so again, they cut off the connections that will perpetuate us knowing who we were. So, and it just reminds me of one of the first things in the book of Adam and Eve, when they realized they had listened to the enemy, and then they repented, and the Most High says, I hear you, but you on that, you let him believe that he is who you are. And so because you're an eternal being, it's going to take 5.5 days. Okay, they got excited about the 5.5, but then he had to explain, no, not days according to, on earth, but I mean, in heaven, or in the fullness of who you are and who I am, is 5.5 years, thousands of years. So anyway, and so all the stories that we are seeing, and again, Maccabees to me is just the New Testament through and through. Like Ray said, after those 400 years, what was going on? All those wars in the European area, and here in America. Again, to say side by side, parallel universe, all these things going on. Because again, we live in this dual nature, trying to again maintain and those sons and that mother. When you were talking about the mother, reminded me of somebody was explaining about what happened in Wakanda when they thought had captured the real queen in the Bantu war. Now they was given the real life interpretation of the movie, and they said that they had captured her, and she said, well, she came out naked, and she said, she was going to plead her cause, but in the pleading, and I can't remember all the details, she ship-shaped into the Black Panther. So again, that ship-shaping thing, again, they stole, and not necessarily stole, but they used it to their ability because he is a spirit as well as us. So anyway, that's what reminded me of that when you talked about that comment, and I think that was verses 38 through 39, and you commented on it at number 7. The mother also died. So anyway, it just reminds me of the African queens. And again, we don't get a lot of information about the female and what they went through. And again, the importance of that, because she's the one who gives the increase of what the Most High told them to do, replenish. You can't replenish the earth according to how the Most High wanted it replenished, his like kind, except for through the female. Likewise, we have what we have now, these rainbow people who trying to replenish the earth. Okay, again, which is the race to have dominion. They know they can't. So, and also when Vanessa talked about being bold, like, yeah, we have been bold in what we've spoken. That's why it's been this continuation of them chasing us, making it seem like we are chasing them. So, I mean, all of those things are just so prevalent even now. This lady on the video in South Africa, they're having this debate, and she's like, look, I'm tired of the debate. Just give me, I'm taking back my land. And then they changed it. And she told the lady, she said, you can't give me back nothing, which again is part of what we were talking about in First Maccabees. How they figure they're going to give us something? We own this and we taking it back. She said, you can't give me anything. And it's not about you. Yeah, we're going to give you back no, she said, we're going to take it. And she even brought up, if we have to take up arms, and then this non-melanated guy talking about, well, you don't want to speak about stuff like that. She's like, look, I'm tired of this debate. So, that's where we are. The Most High has risen up on us. Where is it? The kingdom is within, and he's rising up from the inside, which again reminded me of the scripture said, draw out of your well salvation. So who's going to get salvation? His right arm. Who is his right arm? Raise your hand. Raise your hand. Ha! Yeah. So, just so good, so good. Let's see. Okay. And the herbs. Oh, yes. Only eat. And see, that's the thing that we're still not getting about Leviticus and about the ox. When they came out of Egypt, when they came out of Exodus, the first thing they did when Moses was not present was they built the what? The calf, the golden calf. And so I don't have full understanding about that as far as when Moses kept saying, we will go and sacrifice, and we can't do it here because it would be an abomination. That what would be an abomination to them? See, that's not making sense. And then they get out there and the Egyptian worship the cow. All the Indians to this day worship the cow. And like you said, Genesis 1, he said, this will be your meat. This will be your food. The fruit from the trees. It's just so many things. But again, he said, I will have myself a body without spot or wrinkle or any such things. And we are washing away all them such things with this word and this revelation of our brothers, Judah Maccabee and his mom. And because the other thing too that I think sometimes we, at least when I listen to conversation on it, is about we will die like mere men. I don't think it's us that he's talking about. It's them, because they want to be like us. You already angelic beings. You already have this power of being here 1 minute and there the next minute. And the example that came to my mind was when Abraham was to be translated, and the angel didn't know what to do. He had to go and talk to the Most High again. It's like, Abraham said he ain't ready to. He ain't going. He's not going. So but anyway, they decided to go after the flesh. They wanted to be flesh, and they're gonna die like mere men. We aren't. We have mercies every day. Our mercies are renewed every morning. We have the gift of resurrection. We have the gift of being like the Most High. Ingeta.
Very good points. Very good points. And welcome, Brother Benika. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
We were just talking about Angola there. All right. Ray.
Thank you.
CME. How are you doing,
CME.
Brother Benika?
I'm doing well. Thank you, sir. How about you?
I'm
Nice
good.
to be here.
I'm good.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're learning about the Maccabees here. Very interesting. Ray, go ahead.
Okay, I'm trying to get this Maccabee story together. My first question, and it's more like a question statement. Why did they put the first book second and the second book first? Because I was trying to understand why the story of this woman and her 7 brothers mean anything. But then I realized it led to the second book. It led to Judas Maccabeus and the revolt. Because in history, this is labeled as the first Jewish revolt in 167 BC. But we're reading the events of the revolt before the revolt started. When we read First Maccabees, it talks about everything that happened after these 7 people and their mother and their teacher gave their life. Well, no, not gave, they were taken. And now we're reading the letters and everything that caused it. It's like, okay, here's another thing they put their hands on, tampered with to screw us up. And then I started reading about the Greek Orthodox Church. This family's a big deal in the Greek Orthodox religion. But, history says they were Levites. Okay, they were Levites. So the Greeks are following the Levitical teachings, also with a mixture of Christianity involved. And it's just how screwed up they wanted our scriptures, they wanted our language, they got it. Then they realized, hey, listen, we don't want them to know we took it, so let's mix all this up again. Just like the old, this is like in between the Old and the New Testament. Again, they've taken our word, screwed it up, put their own language in it, gave it back to us. And then they're going to tell us, wait a minute, I'm reading a book and you're telling me the first event is in the middle of the book? And I'm reading the effect, not the cause? It's weird how again and again they keep on giving us great hints, but we have to sift through it and find out what it is and get to.
Ray, you are very right about that. It can get confusing if you don't have the context of when exactly, what's the chronology of these events, and in the presentation, there was a part where I played an audio to give an overview, I'm sharing that text right now in the chat of that overview. Some versions of the Apocrypha, like the King James Apocrypha in English, it contains an introduction. Some versions contain an introduction that gives you context. And that lessens the confusion, but there's definitely a lot of questions, what else haven't they given us? What else was lost in translation?
And to know the Greeks, they know everything. When you look through history, it always goes back to Hebrew antiquity. No, it's the Greeks.
No. Yeah. I don't know if you noticed, even in my opening statement, I translated some words like Jew or Israelite into Bantu because most of them were just translated as Jews. Well, I know that's irrelevant. That's the wrong translation. Forget even the translation in language to English, from the Bantu languages. The blatant hijacking of our faith by the so-called Jews, who we know are not the real Jews, is where they lost us. That's where they hid the truth from us. Because now when we hear that term, we think of a certain people who are not.
And it also holds a meaning to why some of us that have been enlightened, we only stop at the Jewish Hebrew text.
Yes.
Yahweh, Yasharel. Wait a minute, they weren't the first. I knew this all along, but I never wanted to get in an argument. But here's proof that the Greeks hold the key to our history. We got to go beyond Hebraic history because they learned, it says it right here, they learned everything from the Greeks. Ptolemy wanted us to bow to him. He knew the power he saw the power we had.
Yep.
He wanted us to bow to him. We didn't. Okay. So you just started through Ptolemy about 4 different religions.
Yeah.
Right there.
And look at the evidence they gave us. they told us in this book that the teacher of Ptolemy was from the Levites, right? If you didn't think we were anything, why have your teacher specifically specifically from the tribe of Levi, not any other tribe? They were going to the heart of our faith, or
Even
at least they were trying to,
even Alexander knew that.
Yep.
He knew that too.
Yep.
And to see how, this book is basically saying, Alex, I understand why. It's saying the early Greeks were black. We were all people of color.
Oh, I'm sure many of you, I don't know if you did this, but if you haven't, just go online and Google statues or pictures or paintings of the Greeks, early Greeks.
It shows on their dishes, their tools, our pictures. I mean, that's not a palm colored person on there.
No. All right, Asif, go ahead.
It's funny you're bringing that up about the what you're bringing up with the timeline right now, because it's not the point I wanted to talk about. I was going to leave it for another time, but I kind of have this roadmap of I kind of saw it. I was like, I see this leading to Christianity again. Like like I said, it's like I could see this roadmap, and very interesting. But that's not the point I wanted to bring up right now. So I'm gonna move on from that. But in 7, I wanted to go back to 7, and in chapter 7 is really interesting, looking at this king, like, again, going nuts and being so upset because of the food. Like, I can't think of the scripture off the top of my head, but I'm sure someone else will. But it's the act of doing just one act of worship towards me, right? And the king is just like, eat this ham. And it's a trip because ham is delicious. We all know this. Like, you usually ain't got to beg us to eat no ham. You know what I mean? It's delicious. But it's like, we stay away from that, because I don't know if you guys know, ham is, 99% parasite. So parasites are delicious, apparently. But it's like, because we're not eating this ham and we're not breaking Sunini Nanini's law, right? What this tells us is everything being talked about moving forward is about us. It's about Bantu. Yeah. So we go to 7:7, and that was just an interesting point. The scalping, we're being scalped. It again got thrown in there like, well, thank you for letting us know y'all was doing that to us. That changes a lot of movies. All right. Like, that's really interesting. Like, you're just scalping us. And first of all, too, maybe Ray knows, I don't know. Who thought of that in the first? That just sounds odd. That's an odd thing to do to a person. Like, let me cut off this part of your scalp, leave you alive. Seems odd to me. Anyway, moving forward. It's an odd kind of way to beat somebody or whatever. Because maybe it has some other lasting effects or something like that. But the rest of what I'm about to get into, I'm gonna wrap it up short, but I'm gonna tread on it lightly, because so many of us recently, if not even just recently, but we've been dealing with so much loss, so many people passing in so many different ways. I know I'm getting flooded with loss. So try to tread lightly and respectfully on how I hit this, because in 7:9, what's interesting, it brings out that though like a fury take us out of this present life, but the King of the whole world shall raise us up, who have died for his laws unto everlasting life. So first of all, I have, certain people that I speak to recently that aren't a Bantu, and they're like, okay, you're talking Bantu 24 hours a day, but what's that got to do with, like, where's that leave me? And I never really have a great answer. Like, I don't know. I've been trying to figure it out for myself, but like, I ain't got answers for you. But something like this could be applied to those who probably aren't directly Bantu, because it's still saying, look, if you die, keep upholding the law, because that's giving worship to Sunini. Then according to what's being said here, you're getting everlasting life from that standpoint. Now, again, anybody outside of Bantu that needs to dig deeper, good luck with that one. All right. So going on 714, which is also interesting in 714, it says that you kill Isole, right? All right. I have my notes in front of me. So that you kill Isole will be resurrected. So it was brought out earlier about the resurrection thing. And this is really interesting because it's saying that, according to Hero, even though that you kill Isole, you'll be resurrected, or Isole will be resurrected, but your resurrection will not be a resurrection of life, right? So it's still acknowledging you will be resurrected, though. So even though they're getting cursed out and everything else right now, it's like, yeah, you coming back too, though, homie. So we both getting resurrected, yeah? And it matches up with the scripture that I was kind of familiar with. We go back to the Bible, Acts 24:15. And I know you don't like this version of the Bible, but this is the one I grew up with. It's easier for me to read sometimes. So Acts 24:15, and I have a hope toward God, which hope, I hate reading it this way. You're right. I hate reading this way. And I have a hope towards Samandla, which hope these men also look forward to, that there is going to be a resurrection of both the righteous and unrighteous. So giving an acknowledgement to resurrections of different groups of people coming back, right? So resurrection, not always like you're coming back, everybody coming back as far as resurrection goes, but what do we mean by resurrection? So real quick, if we look at resurrection, especially according to Acts 24:15, the Greek word meaning what I can't pronounce, if anybody can pronounce that better than me, I don't speak Greek. But the literal meaning of it is raising up, right? Or standing up, right? So it doesn't give any definition about life or death. It's not a conversation of life or death. It's about, are you standing up? So it's used about 40 times in the Christian Greek scriptures, right? So if the literal meaning is to raise up or stand up, we can see that we've been dead people. We've been dead recently, right? And the righteous and the unrighteous of us, the good and the bad of us, are waking up a little bit differently, right? And you see that some of us are kind of resurrecting to certain levels and getting stuck, and then others keep on waking up, like that crust out our eyes that we was talking about before, Dig. And basically, they'll be resurrected too. My guess on the resurrection of the unrighteous, first of all, I would argue that when it comes to the unrighteous, I would argue that Acts 24 is probably still speaking about a Bantu, because even within the Bantu, we have the unrighteous. They have judgment to be called to, right? But I think it's a good reference to what's being talked about in Maccabees. But in Maccabbees, I think what's being said here very clearly is, hey, you torturing me, you're mangling me and pulling my joints out, and y'all making popsicle sticks out of us and everything else, man. You got to be accounted for this too. So somehow you're going to have to stand up to this. Again, it's not about life and death, because we know, especially after we've gone through Adam and Eve and everything, we know this flesh, this skin, man, it's like it's a twinkle of an eye. It's going to come and go. there got to be better judgment to come beyond this. Like we've seen it in a bunch of our movies, you know what I mean? It's like, it's the American standard. You know, to get the bad guy, you have to shoot him in the head or do something. Like you kill the bad guy and everybody feels better. Okay, you're dead. But whatever that bad guy has done, does it atone for? Does it bring back to? Does it anything? No, it's vengeance, right? Which is kind of why that doesn't do too much for us. So there has to be a different way that these people will be resurrected back into. And the way that my guess, this is now my theory, the way that they're coming into this resurrection right now is the best way I can describe it is when I'm walking past and I look in the eyes and they feel hopeless and just like they know who they're looking at. That's the best way I could describe it. The realization, you know, the different spirits that are speaking to us, telling us what we physically can't hear, but we hearing it though, and they hearing it though. You know what I mean? And it's a matter of time before the physical part of it is just, it is what it is. So, respectfully, the resurrection, chapter 7, and get the.
Oh, thank you so much, Asif. You know, I never got it that way. That is a big mic drop. Yes, Mama Rhoda daughter says it's a mic drop. That's a huge one. You know, we think about the awakening, the realization of who we are, our land, all that. These guys are having a resurrection because they've been asleep. And their resurrection, they're waking up to, you can call it a nightmare for them. And that's what you're saying. You know, when I looked up that word resurrection in the concordance just now, it said the first translation of the word is anesthesia. All right. So just like when you go in for a medical procedure, they give you some stuff and it knocks you out. So when you come out later on, when you come to, that's the resurrection. That's what they're referring to as anesthesia here, right? So we've been, when we die in our physical bodies, we're going to be resurrected to come back to life, all of us, the good and the bad, right? But right now, you're absolutely right. I had never seen that, you know. We are awakening to who we are, but they're awakening to who they're not. It's huge. My goodness, bro, that was good. That was deep. I don't know if you guys are getting it, but Mama Margaret, you had your hand up. Are you still there?
Yes, I'm still here.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I just wanted to go back concerning that thick liquid. I just want to read a little part from here. Nehemiah ordered the remaining liquid to be poured over large stones. And when this was done, a flame flared up to be absorbed in a corresponding blaze of lights. So being here in the Caribbean, I experienced this same light because we're speaking about this thick liquid. And this thick liquid too gives off gas. This is here. When the matter became known and the king of the Persian heard that, we know, but we'll go to that also because when you have these oil companies, these drilling companies, they hear of this liquid, wherever it is, they come in, they're just coming for it. They're coming to make deals and agreement and want to offer this subsidiary and all. Okay, let me continue reading. When the matter became known and the king of Persia heard that, in the place where the exiled priests had hidden the fire, a liquid had appeared with which Nehemiah and his people had purified the sacrificial offerings. The king, after verifying the fact that had the place enclosed and pronounced sacred, as you were speaking about all those parks and wherever, as soon as they hear something in there, they fence it off, right? And don't go there. This is sacred ground in there, but it's not sacred for it, it's sacred for them. To the people on whom the king bestowed it, he granted a part of the considerable revenue. See, a revenue, they say, okay, we'll have to subsidize this and we'll give you a part of the revenue like it belongs to them. Just so they're crouching on you again. We went through so much, it takes so much, we lost so much, but anytime they hear something is for us, they encroach upon us again and to take it and give you a portion. Let's imagine you have your barrel of oil and they want to give you a few dollars on it and thing, and the country, making the country look so horrible that where we are here to rest ourselves at time, but they're making it horrible again. The place is deplorable. Anyway, yeah, and anyway they see what it's for themselves, but the time, as we say, do who damn who die, right? They bestow the king. He granted a part of a considerable revenue he derived from it. Nehemiah and his people termed this stuff nepta. We talk, that is tar. They call it as the common name as it's nepta, which means purification, but it's commonly called nepta. So this, you know, we say, you know, as growing up in the Caribbean here, and we say this is tar, and Mama Royal posted, she said, Asha's feet will be dipped in oil. They were in this time, a long time. They were drilling in this place for so long, drilling in this place. Shell, Texaco, we have this big petroleum companies and all coming in. And I know it as a fact as a child from young. I know we had they had bungalows, they had buildings all over the place. And all these people, and were white people, all living in among, even where I live in the south part of Trinidad here. They had bungalows and the people in the khaki clothes and the cockard. So I know now it's coming to me that where these people came from. They were all from Europe and all America and all these places. And this bringing back my memory to me, yes. They come to the government here, making an agreement, always offering a little portion of this and a little portion of that. We still have the lake, the Asheville Lake here in the south part of Trinidad. We call it the Labre. They have that part. We still have these have ships coming in there, and they will pack the oils and the petroleum in barrels and roll them, and they will when these ships come in, they will let up this big horn so when people knew that the ships came for oil and the asphalt, so they will go at a certain time in the village here and go to roll these barrels on the ship when they come, because they will have this long horn blowing out. People know the ship is in, so they will go to get a day's job in that place there in Labre. Yeah, we had considerable revenue here, but that is what this place, because Tatanzami, although in his mercy for us, he scattered people, but he still provided here for us, because this is the revenue the government here is dependent on, right? And when I was listening to the radio the other day, and I heard they were paying us in the TT dollars, but now they're demanding that they want it in US dollars. And it's like, what? Yes, this is because something they talk about we running low on the US dollar, which by now the US is going plummeting because of all these bricks and things like that. And sometimes they listen and they're just like, what it is, Lord. But I know that Zambia will not leave us to suffer. He provided these things, and these people come and thief it. They now hear a little oil in Venezuela, our neighbor country right there. They are coming in. They're coming in again and arguing and argument and Guyana and making deals behind closed doors. That is something we had to pray, and all these prayers. See this prayer we find here now? We have to keep plumbing on that prayer, plowing through that prayer. Because they're going and look how they're trying to do that. The president, the prime minister in Venezuela, look what they're doing to this man, right? We have resources to live on. He provides, but that the day will come. Well, that's why he dry up so many wells, and these people had to leave here because a lot of the wells, the dry up, so that make them leave to Trinidad and remove themselves there. But that in Zambia, he built this, he created all things, and he will. At a time, they drill and they take and they make themselves strong and rich. But he dried up somebody well. But these same wells and things were dried up, they will find more resources again in it. Because just as you have wells where they put the fire in it, and he sees up and he turn it into the fire into that thick liquid. So he dried it up and they had to cover it and leave this place. and give it a chance, the earth to give the earth a chance to refresh itself and get
Thank you, Mama Margaret. Wow. Wow. Amara, daughter, go ahead. Good to see you.
Good to be seen. Thank you. Good. There's so much in this book, this second book of Maccabees, but it just keeps dawning on me, when they were mutilating these people, how they stood up for the law because they knew the law. And that is the thing that always sticks with me, how hard they try to keep us from knowing the book of the law. How, it has been their eternal fight because they think if we don't know the law, we can't stand up for the law. This family stood up. They did not care what they did to them. And, listening to this reminds me of the same thing. These same things happened to our people in the Spanish Inquisition in Spain and Portugal. The most horrendous. Who thinks up these things? You have to be pure evil to think up these kinds of punishments, and they endured it because they knew the law. And that is the thing. They tried to beat it out of us. They tried everything to separate us from the law. And the striking thing about that is that in Nehemiah, when they read the law, then they celebrated the Feast of the Tabernacles. And that's exactly what happened with us, so there is some correlation, because right after we were still studying the book of the law, where we end up in the land in Angola, and the first thing that we celebrated was the Feast of Tabernacles. And I'm saying, wow, this Tatanzambi is awesome. He does things, he moves in mysterious ways, his wonders to perform. And they told them how important it was to keep the Feast of the Tabernacles, and how sacred it was. And it's just like the same thing keeps repeating. It repeated in the time of Ezra and Nehemiah, and it's repeating now. So the book of the law is the central factor to everything. Because if, look how much we got, just reading the book of the law, and how different it was from what they wrote in the Bible itself. Your understanding of the book of the law just blew. It sent you into space. That's how different it is from what was written in the book, and how they interpreted it to us. So the book of the law is really the life, the lifeline, the lifeblood. And, that is where we have to really, really keep our focus, because now that we're learning the book of the law and how important it is to us, it literally gave us life. It literally, like Brother Asaph said, it literally resurrected us. We're going through the resurrection when people are still waiting for a rapture and waiting for things to happen that are literally happening in front of their eyes. They just cannot see it. That spiritual blindness, and not knowing the law separates you from the spirit. So it opens so many doors once you know the law. And it's like when your mind expands like that, you can't go back to who you used to be. It's life-changing. So, I understand why they fought so hard, why they spent so many resources, why they went to the ends of the world just to keep us from knowing the book of the law. But, now that that knowledge is coming back to us. First, we have to keep praying for him, because he said we will remember. Remember what? Remember the things we forgot. So we have to ask him to refresh our memory, because that's what that purification, that's what that Feast of Tabernacles is. He wants to tabernacle with us. That's that personal relationship that he wants to have with us. You know, he doesn't care about wood and stone. He wants that personal relationship with you. And that's what the wilderness of the people is. The wilderness experience is that one-on-one. He wants to connect with you one-on-one. So he's taking you to a place where you can focus on him. And that's what that tabernacle, the Feast of the Tabernacles, is about. He wants to tabernacle with you. So now when he tabernacles with you, he's all wise. The wisdom, the knowledge, the understanding, all these things we get from him. So unless you connect with him, you don't get any of this. You can't receive from him. You know, so it just like blows my mind how it happened with us, how deliberate he is. Because, you know, first there was the book of the law, and then there was a covenant that appeared in the middle of nowhere. We were talking covenant, and then the next thing we know, we're in the land and we're celebrating the Feast of Tabernacles. Only all-knowing God can do stuff like that before you even know it. You know, so this Feast of the Tabernacles thing is like so important. And the one other thing that stuck out to me was that NAFTA and the Nephi. And it's about a cleansing. Because it's so funny, we just read it in the book of Ezekiel, where he talks about the seraph, Isaiah, where he talks about the seraphim taking a live coal and putting it on his lips, and it brought purification to him. And, you know, then we have this NAFTA, which is a purification itself. And I can't help but think that they are somehow related. But I would like, you know, to learn more about that, because it just really sounds like a play on words, the NAFTA and the seraph. And get that.
Oh, it's good to be heard also. You know, good to hear you speak again. Thank you so much, Amara Adora, for that. Let me skip and go to Sister Matweedy. How you doing out there, Belgium?
Ingita, I'm doing well. Thank you very much. I'm doing well. Wow. Where can I start? Well, I don't have much to say. I just realized how, you know, from is to the kingdom. You know, I'm looking at this as two kingdom, because that family, that mother and those boys or son is like, we know our king. We know what is in his kingdom. We know his culture. We know what it is that what we ought to do and what we not to do. Like Mama Aurora say, the commandments. And you know, and they just lay it out to this king, you know, that this is how we were taught to act. We know the power that's behind our king. We know what he told us, that what will happen to us when we obey him. So I just find that so wonderful and strange for them to know that. And I would love to, you know, to walk in that way of that boldness and that understanding of the Tanzania kingdom and, just be so strong in his word, so planted in his word, and believe it actually, believe it more, because it did say to help our unbelief, not perfect. But I found that so I don't know. It just like a wow effect of that family to just to stand up and speak out everything that they know about their father and they believe about him, and yeah, and what he will do to them that do not follow his laws and his culture. So yeah, that's what I just wanted to say. And another thing that you guys were saying about anesthesia, yeah, in the operation room, when they're trying to get patient to wake them out of anesthesia, sometimes they do slap them because they're not waking up. They slap them on the face, and they have to like shake them to come out. And some people, when they come out of when they're coming out, they like fight the nurse. They like raise up and they want to hit people because they're coming out of something like they were dead or something, but they're coming back to life, and they just like hit nurses, and they want to fight you. So it's just that deep sleep that we are in the waking by the grace of Tatanzami, that he woke us up, and when we were waking up, it's like we too will get a slap in our face when we understand that we are the people. It was a slap in our face, and we want to beat everybody up because they liked us. So yeah, I do understand that feeling. And when the brothers say that, when you just pass by the people who are now waking up, who are not let's say the Caucasian, and they know, and they can see that we have this other kind of glowing on us, that we are shining, and that no matter what they say or what they do, or what they think about us, it does not affect us the way that it used to do before. So they are scared of us, and I remember when I came back from Angola, I had this colleague, and the first day she saw me, she was like, "What did you do to your face?" I was like, "Nothing, oil." She was like, "No, um, there's another thing on your face, like you're shining, like something else you did to your face." I said, "No, I've just spent 3 weeks in praying and worshiping of the Tanzania. I went to Angola, and that was what I was doing." She was like, they were like, like my glow and the way that I'm carrying myself was completely different and strange. And some of them were like, "I didn't know that you were so religious, that you are so like all for God." I said, "Yes, I am." So yeah, it's a completely strange situation now, and loving it that yeah, they say the righteous shouldn't do forever. So the Tanzame with he's just keeping us and making us stronger, giving us more force, because he needs us. He needs us because he has promised us to gather us, to wake us up, to plead with us, to change us, and I'm happy that we are, and I am among those people that get that privilege to walk with him and to understand him, his wills, his commandments, and all the strategies that he already have there for us. Yeah, Ingita. Hold on a second.
Ingeta.
Mama Emma, go ahead.
All praises. Isaiah 28:13. But the word of Tatanzame, Samini Namini, was upon them, precept upon precept, precept upon precept, line upon line, line upon line, here a little and there a little, that they might go and fall backward and be broken and snared and taken. So all the things that we have come to the conclusion that they did to us, beginning in the garden, having to do with that word that you're talking about in the resurrection, or the anesthesia, It was something about that word that put them asleep. And although the Most High had spoken to them and told them again, it's okay. I'm gonna protect you. I'm gonna resurrect you. But there's this little bit of thing that you're in time. You've taken yourself out of eternal operation and put yourself in time operation. So until this time comes, okay, so I'm not gonna go through that again. So anyway, oh okay, we talked about ancestors and again, like I said, I did a study on that. I'm going to say forefathers. Okay, so we are as I'm sorry, this is so good. No, I'm not sorry. I apologize. Book of Aesop said, oh shucks, the resurrection of these people who we are, our ancestors. We are that seed. We are those people who stood for the law in our ancestors. Just like we're saying, recognizing now that their ancestors, their children are also trying to maintain this antiseptic effect on us by continually telling us that we aren't who we say we are. This is not your land. You're not made in the image. But they can't deny it. The sister came in because the other scripture that came to me was the fire on the altar shall never go out. The fire should never go out. And it's like, okay, you've been giving me some different stuff about Leviticus. But then the sister from Belgium comes in and she's talking. It's like, they see this light. They have seen it and they're seeing it again because we are the ancestors' children who's waking up that they thought that they had gotten rid of, died, buried, killed, mutilated, all of those things. But as the Most High keep his promise, he keeps his promise against everything. He said also, scripture come to me, I have a witness against you in the heavens and in the earth realm. Okay, what are we saying? Okay, we had a discussion about sundown towns. The Most High knew where they were. And he said to Harry Cain, Harry, HarryCain, the Harry Cain, to revenge his own self. Anyway, all praises. Okay, the other thing was the man in the mirror, which has to do with, again, Isaiah 28, how we have to use the same method that they use to divide, separate, kill. We have to use that same method with ourselves. We have to go within and allow the fire within us to never go out. The oil in the lamp. So that's another play on words that they, but who's the essence of playing on words? The Creator. But the word of the Creator was upon them. It was upon us. And precept on precept, they tried to do all this stuff to make us fall backwards and to be broken and snared and taken. But his word was on them as well, like he said. Abel said when Cain slayed him in one of the books we was reading, and Cain told him, if it's in your heart to kill me, go ahead and kill me. And Abel said, and Cain said, well, who will revenge you? And he said, Abel said, the Most High will revenge my blood. And it tells us his blood is crying out from the earth. Wherever blood was spilled, sundown towns, the Most High is taking heaven and earth, doing his job, you know. So, yeah, I think that was. Oh, the other thing was, okay, in discovering who we are, it said the scripture is talking about seeking you shall find, knocking the door shall be open. And there's a scripture, I didn't have a chance to look it up. It's talking about the doors of the temple is open. Our temple is being cleansed, and the Most High is using our senses, our eye gates, our ear gates, all those things flooding in with his word, the water of his word, to cleanse the temple, the physical temple, the earth realm, where we are to have dominion, and the spiritual realm, where we are to, the light will never go out. We are children of the light. He made the light first, and that's what we're returning to. So that's what I was getting. All praises in Geta.
In Geta. Thank you so much, Mama Emma. Brother Asaph, go ahead.
Yeah. Real quick, wanted to reply real quick something Royal Daughter said about rapture. Just again, one of those small notes. So from the witness perspective, if you're Jehovah's Witness or anybody who used to be, Jehovah's Witnesses do not believe in the rapture. So if you ever have that conversation, it's a mute point because they do not believe in the rapture. So when it comes to terms of resurrection, it's a conversation of just physically being resurrected in flesh, basically just coming back to life. That's the conversation. So these scriptures of resurrection, and that's why I kind of know that, because that's kind of one of the talking points. You know, you're going door to door. Hey, is life ever going to be better and this and that? And don't worry about it because you're going to get resurrected again. So, boom. All right. So, which I mean, you know, I understand, but you know, when you're sitting here playing hopscotch on what words actually mean, and then when people, as time goes on, we become less educated and less interested in just simply knowing what just simple words mean. Anybody can tell you anything. So, all right. So anyway, I just wanted to pin that real quick for you. But wanted to bring up back in Maccabees 7:20, where it's talking about the mom, because you guys are bringing up a lot the all the mangling and the torture and all these pretty scenes, right? And this stood out to me. I think this line should have been or not this line. So this was a trip, right? So it says that the mom she bared what she saw with good courage because of the hope. Like, I hope that marinates with you for a minute, though. Like, look at what just got snuck in again, man. Like, this mom is watching her boys get mangled, ripped apart, skin pulled off, and they just like wearing it like bandanas and everything you could think of, all the madness. And she sat there with her hands in her lap and she bared it with because she had hope. Dang, that sounds very church to me. So personally, I ain't gonna use none of the derogatory terms that are in my notes, but I call total BS on that. Okay. Now, I think what's happening here, I don't think that there's some truth in what's being said, but to sit there and bear it with it, like that's BS the way that that's being played, especially a black mama. You see what you're doing to my babies, man. All right, so chill. All right, so I call BS on that. Yeah, I think what's meant to be said, because you got to remember, man, these translations are translated by people that are trying to put a poetic tongue to things. You dig? And And some of the courage and some of the ways that they seeing us stand up, as you see, as you keep reading Maccabees, they just ain't seen it before. And it's like, it's poetic to them. It's magical. It's magical. Because I mean, even when back before we was awake and we just watching slave movies, we used to sit back, oh man, I couldn't put up with that. No, not my baby. And no, no, no. Like the stuff that we've endured and had to go through is unheard of, right? So I think right here what's being said is basically, a mom was pretty like she dealt with that though, because she knew like ultimately she knew what was gonna happen. That don't mean she wasn't freaking out, screaming, trying to get to her babies and everything else. Don't get it twisted, y'all. These were torture chambers. People are in there screaming, mangling, crying. Torture ain't torture if you don't feel nothing. Like it don't work that way. You know what I'm saying? So they were being tortured. You know what I mean? It would be a different twist to the story if we can go back to something like, you know, the lion's den and he got out. Okay, well you live through it. Didn't nobody say the lion ripped a leg or two off and then you crawled out like it? So anyway, all right. So that was my little pin for 720. I call BS on that. Mama was freaking, man, stop it. Because she had hope. Wow. Dang, it's like, who wrote that script? But anyway, okay. The point, the thing I wanted to get to was 742. This is the very end of chapter 7. I think it should have been at the end of every single chapter. I think this should have been at the end of every single chapter, all the way through. Mm-hmm. It's like, hopefully this is enough to help you. Like it's kind of a cry. I don't know who's saying this or what, but it's like, I hear you, right? It's like, hopefully you're listening to all this agony, this mangling of your people, the torture. Do you see what you're going through? And it's all based on these I get the word out for me. Idol is idolatrous feast that you're doing. You've pulled away from me. I let you loose on these, or I let these people loose on you. You pulled away from me. And I know on a physical level and as a father and everything else, I kind of know what that feels like, where you kind of gotta be like, hey, look, that's the way you want to walk. It's not that I'm trying to set this up for you, but that's the way you want to walk. So, hey, and that happened here, right? And it's saying, hopefully this is enough for you. This should have been at the end of every single chapter. Do you see what just happened? Hopefully you get it now. Hold on, chapter 2. Hopefully you get it now. Hold on, chapter 3. Hopefully you get it now. Like, just, it should have constantly, because it's like, dang, man, it's like when you talk about hard-headed, it's a special chromosome we got. It's we drink hard-headed like Kool-Aid, you know what I mean? Like so that was just kind of a trip to me that I thought that, you know, this is kind of a begging to the Bantu, man. It's like, man, like, you know, and again, as a father and everything, it's like it's like, man, what do I gotta say? What does it take? What do you need to see? You know, I mean, you think of us in our teenage years when you just want what you want. You know, it ain't got to make sense. You know, like you see the fiends on the corner and this and that, or you see they got pregnant and they got shot and the car cracked. Like you see, but sometimes you want what you want. And it's like sometimes like you just got to be like, look it, man. Like, and you know, and it's weird because I think men relate to this with their young men sometimes because it's like, all right, you want to be a man, be a man then. Don't mean it don't hurt, man. You know what I mean? Because it's like, man, son, like I want to just tell you every single mistake so you skip them all, come up with some new mistakes, come up with some new ones. You know what I mean? You want to, but sometimes it's just like, hey, is this what it is? And you know what I mean? And zombie, man, look at follow these feasts, bro. Like it's food. Chill out. You know what I mean? You got a day to chill. Like I'm making it beautiful for you, man. I know they're new. I know the hair is different. I get it. Yeah, but don't do that. Just keep doing this thing, you know what I mean? And we was like, nah, man, you know, I think I'll go deer hunting. Why not? You know, so we fall into what everybody else doing, stories of Zeus that we know are stolen from stories of us, stories of, it's silliness. And it's funny because we even to this day we mimic it. Let's be respectful. But it's like the style, like our weaves and stuff, like we follow styles that are trying to copy us to copy it. It's like it's madness, man. It's madness. And it's like it's just being repeated here. 7:42. I'm getting off my soapbox.
Thank you for joining. Thank you for listening. Please remember to like, subscribe, and share if you find this content helpful.